difficult game about climbing was released in 2024 to uproarious applause. It's a rage game, also known as a Fadian game, and because of that, it became a go-to game for Let's Players and live streamers to broadcast to their millions of fans. A Fadian game refers to a game that has extremely difficult controls and the possibility of having major setbacks, often forcing a player all the way back to the beginning after a small mistake. A difficult game about climbing is simple in theory. Climb to the top. That's all you gotta do. But if you fall, you have the possibility of falling all the way back to the start. Ben Foddy is the creator of these types of games. You see where the name comes from? Fadian Games, Ben Foddy. No, I'm genuinely asking. I don't know where the name comes from. Two of the more well-known Fadian games Benjamin has developed are QWOP and Getting Over It. You remember QWOP? All you gotta do is make a sprinter run 100 meters. That game pissed me off like crazy in middle school computer lab. You just gotta get this guy to run. Come on, run. Hold on a minute, Mr. Chrysler. I can't write my paper about if plants grow better in artificial light or sunlight right now. I gotta make this guy run 100 meters. That's a real paper I wrote. Throughout the game, there are multiple sections with different terrain. From waterfalls to gothic churches to construction zones and rotating gears, you get to climb it all. And as a rock climber myself, it got me thinking, how difficult would this be in real life? The game is difficult, but would I have a better chance if it was actually me climbing instead of this mostly nude man? Well, in this video, we're gonna figure out just that. We'll be making our way through the map, taking pit stops at multiple sections of the game to figure out how difficult they would be in real life. Some of these sections would be impossibly difficult in real life for even the strongest climbers, and others would be surprisingly easier than in the game. We'll be using the V-grade system to assess what level the climbs are, which is the difficulty scale we use to rate climbs on actual boulders. Okay, so the first section we'll be taking a look at, you guessed it, the start of the game. Kinda makes sense to start this video off where you spawn. I'm not gonna say I'm a genius, but you can if you're so inclined. Oh, you're not at all? Hey, have you noticed that this guy isn't wearing a shirt? I say we change that with the sponsor of this video, Dead Point Studio. They have embroidered t-shirts, hoodies, and patches from classic boulder problems like Midnight Lightning in Yosemite to the shirt that I'm currently wearing that has the portable boulder from Squamish, Canada on it, which I sent when I was there a couple summers ago. I also got the Moonboard tee because I couldn't decide which one I liked more. So if you're into climbing like me or you want to look like you're into climbing, check them out. They've got awesome stuff and they even have a secret catalog on their website if you're able to find it, which you should be able to do. It's very easy to find. And if you buy something, make sure to use code NICO10 at checkout for 10% off your order and a chance to win a free patch of a legendary climbing shoe. Check it out at deadpointstudio.com. The first section of the game is supposed to be the easiest. You're learning the controls and all the moves are fairly straightforward and simple. But I think this would actually be one of the hardest sections in real life. Not only is this game difficult because of the overall controls, but also because you're not using your feet at all. For some reason, the playable character has chosen not only to omit climbing shoes, but they chose to just kind of have their bottom half ragdoll around. This is actually a type of climbing called campusing. Campusing is a climbing technique where a climber uses only their hands with no assistance from their feet. It's typically used as a form of training, often on a campus board or on an overhung route. It's used to train explosiveness and contact strength, among other things. But more times than not, it's seen done by boulder bros campusing a V1 to impress their gym crush that's not even paying attention to them. With campusing being mostly used for training purposes, is this just training for this bald man in a loincloth? I mean, by the end of the game, he's campusing to the clouds in the sky. What is he training for? Is he trying to campus to the moon or Mars or another dimension? This guy would be undeniably the strongest climber to have ever lived if he weren't a video game character. I don't know, just something I've been thinking about. And now so are you. When grading these climbs for the spirit of the video, we're going to pretend that in real life, you would also have to be campusing these moves. This obviously doesn't make sense because you would just be able to put your hands where your feet were, but whatever, you get it. To determine the difficulty of this section, we need to first figure out what type of rock this is. Climbing on different rock types requires different techniques because they often vary in grip, texture, and features. Examining the rock here in game, with its large cracks and smooth sections, I'm going to say this is most likely granite. Also, typically the wall angle would be important to determine the difficulty of the climb, but with you campusing the route, it doesn't have as much weight to it. What's more important is the depth of the rocks you're grabbing onto. Shallow rocks being more difficult than larger, deeper handholds. The first rock wall you climb has very clear cracks in the rock and shelf-like features that would make it far easier to climb. Up until a certain point of this introductory section, I would say it's no harder than a V4 to V6. The majority of the difficult moves come from the gap between the holds and the slope of the holds. That is until you get here. An 18-foot downward dyno. Yeah. Remember when I said this would be the most difficult part in real life? I'll be honest, I'm not really sure how to grade this move. You have to lâcher your body over an insane gap. I calculated the distance based on his wingspan, estimating that his wingspan is 6 feet. He moves roughly 3 wingspans horizontally, and then another 3 wingspans down. There's no move in rock climbing that is even close to this. The closest thing that comes to mind is Kevin Jorgensen's Dino Skip on pitch 16 of the Dawn Wall, which is an 8.5 foot horizontal dino and is graded 514D on the Yosemite decimal system. And converting that to a V grade puts it around V13, V14. So what we're doing in game is double the distance of the Dawn Wall dino, as well as 18 feet straight down. Trying to catch this move in real life would rip your shoulders from their sockets. It's the equivalent of aiming for the bushes when jumping off a building. But if you were somehow stronger than the strongest climber in the world and could do this move, I would say it's far and above a V18. Hey, if you're enjoying this video, consider subscribing. I've got more niche climbing videos on my channel and more on the way. One of my favorites that I would recommend to you is this video about the climbing wall in the video game Peak. I went to extreme lengths to figure out the difficulty of the boulder problems on this climbing wall. Also, I recently hit 2,000 subscribers, which is pretty cool. My next goal is 8,259,999,855. So go ahead and subscribe and help me reach my goal. All right, on to the next section of the game. Let's move our way up through the map to the next section we'll be grading, the Cathedral. This section has you climbing up windowsills, rooftops, and whatever these things are. Do you know what they are? I do. They're for roof ventilation and entry points for workers. Now, in real life, they would be much larger so a human could actually fit in them, like in this cathedral in Florence. With solid sandstone windowsills and roofs to grab onto, this section would be much easier than the first. The difficulty would come from the dino between the buildings, which is about a 7-foot gap, and then also the large moves from one vent to the next. When training for campusing in real life, you most likely are using a campus board, which is basically a series of wooden ladder-like rungs at 1 inch in depth and 22 centimeters in spacing from one another. Each rung is numbered 1 through 10, and being able to go from rung 1 to 5 to 9 is considered to be extremely elite. Many pro climbers are even unable to do it. So having that knowledge, looking back at our character going from one vent to the next is actually insane. The depth of the vents is greater than 1 inch, so that makes it slightly easier, but just the sheer size of the gap is far greater than the spacing of 159. His arms are nearly fully extended, which means the gap is close to 6 feet. In competitive climbing, we see athletes fling their bodies across great distances, both vertically and horizontally, but those are climbers at the absolute peak of what is capable. This is another single move that I think determines the difficulty of this entire section. This is then followed up by a second 6-foot horizontal dino from one vent to another. And with that, I would put this at a solid V11 or V12. Anyway, let's move a little higher up through the map until we get to this actual artificial climbing wall. Hey, look at that. Looks like something you'd find at your local climbing gym probably. Just throw the Walltopia logo on there and there you go. If you're looking at this and thinking, I could do this part, well, you're not the only one. I'd be thinking the same thing in my brain too. The initial part of this climbing wall is a vertical 90 degrees, which would be pretty uncomfortable to campus on. There's a reason campus boards are traditionally 15 degrees overhung, because if they have no overhang to them, you end up just kind of rubbing your entire body on the wall going from rung to rung. And this man is wearing nothing but a loincloth and a Burger King crown. The climbing wall looks like your typical birch plywood with an added 25mm texture grain. So with that, he's basically grinding his entire body on sandpaper while campusing up this section. But the climb itself is easy enough, at least relative to the other sections we've taken a look at. 9 moves from the top, moving from one handhold to the next, and they all appear to be jugs. One layer of added difficulty is that the green holds will fall off if you grab them, which isn't too dissimilar to a real commercial climbing gym when the setters forget to put in the set screws. One other thing to note is the use of this wall not only being outside in the elements, but also directly in water. Now, from the looks of it, it's safe to assume the wall is set up fairly recently since it's in absolutely pristine condition, but it certainly will not be staying that way. You see, over time, the wall will fall victim to the chemicals in the water of the pool, as well as rain, the sun, and insect damage. The wall itself might withstand the test of time due to the protective texture grain applied, but that is only on the front side. Odds are the back is just bare plywood, not to mention the structural elements. Climbing walls are commonly held in place by metal tubing. And you know what water does to untreated metal? Rust. The rust will form over time, leaking into the pool until it's dangerous to swim in. And as the rust continues to develop and the plywood weakens from insects finding their new home, you'll notice the wall will begin to droop and sag until it reaches its inevitable conclusion, crashing down and doing a huge cannonball into the pool. But thankfully, you're only climbing this momentarily, and because of that, I give this a V5. You've got great holds throughout, but you'll need substantial strength to pull yourself from hold to hold due to the distance between each one, as well as another classic horizontal dino. This brings us to the last section that we'll be looking at in this video, which is also the last main section of the game, the ice climb. Remember when I said the first section would be the hardest in real life because of its downward dino? Well, you got one here too, and now there's ice everywhere, and it's snowing. What's crazy is some people will look at this and say these are the ideal conditions to send your project. As long as you're not projecting Burden of Dreams, I think you can climb when it's a bit warmer and you're not miserable. The rock in this section is also probably wet from the ice melting. Heck, most of the rock you climb in this game is a couple feet from water or going through a literal waterfall. We didn't look at that part of the game, and for that, I apologize. Really, this guy shouldn't be trying to climb any of this. With the rock being wet, there's a non-zero non-zero chance of him breaking holds off or adding additional erosion to the rock. But alas, just like in real life, there are some people who hop on the rock the moment it stops raining and it ends up breaking hold after hold, only for you to show up to your project and no longer recognize it. Taking a look at this section, I almost don't know where to start. First off, you're deep water soloing, or actually closer to shallow water soloing over ice cold water and doing moves that are far greater in length than 159 on the campus board. Second off, you've got horizontal dinos from one rock to the next, and multiple downward dinos sliding down sheets of ice, as well as overhanging sections that are hundreds of feet from the ground. I mean, this is closer to American Ninja Warrior than it is to actual rock climbing. And I've given myself the impossible task for some reason to grade these non-existent climbs. For what? For fun? I don't know. V100, V1 billion. How does that sound? How about you do the work and you let me know in the comments what you think the grade is for this section? Because I'm at a loss here. And for goodness sake, will someone please get some clothes for this guy? Why does he have a Burger King crown anyway? Was he at Burger King right before this eating a Whopper and then looked out the window and saw this and was like, oh yeah, I know what I'm gonna do after I finish this Texas double Whopper, crispy tacos, French fries, and a chocolate shake? Burger King has tacos now? What the heck? Where's the closest Burger King to me anyway? Hey Siri, Burger King near me now.